We made a wine from mangoes a year ago.
Let's taste it.
So yeah, this is mango wine, and it is 12%. It's a year old, and it's 0.990. I'm expecting this one to be mouth-puckeringly dry. But to find out how it is, first we got to get it in the glasses, and for that we need the pour cam.
We might have to rename the pour cam to the spill cam.
Yeah, it seems to happen. This one was super full. It was right to the top.
Way up there.
Color and clarity. This is
That's
like a
gorgeous.
12. I mean, that is some seriously clear wine.
Now, there was a little film at the bottom that the process of pouring, I did disturb that, but it hasn't gone to the top. The top is still crystal clear.
This was done a year ago, which means this was before we were letting them sit for a while and then bottling. So yeah, we you know, you get some of that. It's going to happen no matter what. But we let them go for like another month, sometimes 2 months before we bottle. So on the smell,
it smells like mango.
It smells like mango and white wine together. Kind of like almost has a Chardonnay feel.
Now, I've probably told this story far too many times, but let me refresh you. I grew up on an island, and the section of the island that our house is on used to be basically a mango plantation. So there was a stupid amount of mango trees on that section of the island, and our property had, I think, just 2 really like ancient grandfather mango trees. They were huge, and so they were so huge that we couldn't get the fruit on the top, and the squirrels would attack the mangoes, and so there was more mangoes for us, for the squirrels, for the raccoons. So we ended up with mango parts on the ground, and they would rot, which is part of the fermentation process. Thank you very much. So
does it smell like this?
The smell of fermenting mango kind of is ick if you are in an open, non-controlled environment and it's just
had that
on
in our house
your
in Tampa too.
ground.
We had that at the house in Tampa. We had a mango tree, and the mangoes would fall on the ground.
Right, but this was like that times 10 because our trees are obnoxious. This does not smell like that. This smells nice.
It actually smells sweet, even though I know this is not sweet.
Yeah, it smells wonderful. Like, so far, the clarity and the aroma, I
think they want us to taste it, though.
Okay, I'm done with my stories.
Okay, it is dry. However, it's got that white wine light crispness going for it.
It's really unusual on the tongue. My first perception of it is that it's watery, but on the end, if you're familiar with eating mangoes, sometimes a perfectly ripe mango has this texture that's almost custardy. I'm getting that creamy sensation on the end of drinking this beverage, and that's really cool compared to my initial thought was watery, and then it's like, oh no, it's not watery. It's kind of a creepy up on you flavor thing.
As it enters, I immediately get like a little bit of the astringency of mango and alcohol right away. It's not unpleasant. And then you do get some sweetness coming through of the mango, which at 0.990, I wouldn't expect any sweetness at all. But you do kind of get that. Maybe it's just the brain tricking itself because of the flavor of mango, but that's kind of unusual.
For a dry wine, I would say this is really nice.
Yeah.
And I can imagine pairing this with food. And I know
I would drink this with food.
But
that's what you do. I mean, alcohol and food kind of go together.
Right. Because there's alcohol-soluble flavor.
But this is, I would treat this much like any white wine, any dry white wine. It just goes like that. I had said Chardonnay a minute ago. It doesn't really come across as a Chardonnay to me. It has a slight butteriness of the Chardonnay. But
I think the creamy mango effect is kind of mimicking the buttery feel, but it's not buttered flavor.
It's also not oaked.
No.
But I do believe that there's enough mouthfeel from whatever tannin there might have been in the concentrate that we used. to be fine. And there's certainly a strong acidity. I wouldn't say it's overpowering acidity, but there's a good level of acidity to it. So it's fairly well balanced.
This was the mango nectar that we used. It was a complete disaster.
This was a mess.
For it to be this beautifully clear,
Yeah.
I'm really impressed.
Yeah, I actually call this a success right off the bat. I am not one for dry wines. You probably have figured that out by now. They're just not something I prefer. So,
can I have some more?
Yep. So when we do make things, I tend to go sweeter or prefer sweeter.
Do you want to put a little allulose in it?
No.
No? Oh, I didn't know if you wanted to see
No.
flavor-wise.
I think this needs to stay dry because if I make it sweet now, I'll always want it sweet. So
oh, okay.
It's a different experience, okay? This is not, this shouldn't be sweet. The way this tastes right now, it shouldn't be sweet. It has a nice crisp acidity. It has a lightness. I think if we made it sweet, it would actually make it heavier and cumbersome.
This has a refreshing...
now, we are drinking this at room temperature, but if this was chilled, I think it would be lovely.
I'm enjoying it on room temperature.
Well, just saying. I'm giving options for those of you at home that want options. But I do think that even dry, this is quite nice. I wasn't really expecting that.
Yeah, this is surprisingly delightful.
Yeah.
And I don't want to come off sounding too shocked, but for that ending gravity, and it's both...
Especially with the amount of mess that there was in the making of this. It was, I mean, I remember inches of goop. And it just... We were like, oh boy, this is,
it's a glorious
what did we get ourselves into? And now to come back a year later, this is actually really lovely. Like I said, I keep saying it, I don't generally go for dry, but as a representation of a dry wine, this is wonderful. This is actually really, really nice.
I can even see cooking with this.
Oh yeah.
If you want just a little hint of the tropics in your food.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially anything that might have a fruit in it already.
It's far more versatile than the name mango wine may implicate.
Yeah. Okay. It reads as mango wine, but it reads as a wine first. Mm-hmm. The mango is kind of almost secondary. It doesn't come through super strongly. And that's the other thing. If we sweeten this, the mango would come through more. But like I say, it would change the character of it altogether. This is a nice light fruity, tropical type of wine. You sweeten it, now it becomes a little heavier, sweet. The acidity, I think, is going to still cut through any sweetness, so you'd probably have to over sweeten this to really get it sweet. Yeah. By the time you do that, you're drinking mango nectar again. You know, it just not quite the same. And I know that might sound really weird because I prefer sweet things, but I think in this case, it actually would completely alter the wine. It wouldn't actually be the same wine anymore.
I agree.
That's an interesting theory. I like that. Just came up with it. But it makes sense. You know, the more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, that would actually completely alter it because it's not out of balance right now. There's times that we sweeten things because it's too acidic, it's too tannic, so we have to add some sweetness to balance those things out. But it's acidic enough, it's tannic enough, and the flavors are coming through to be sweet seeming enough to keep those things all in balance. So if we sweetened, now everything else goes out of balance. See, that's how it works, you know? Learn something every day. I didn't know that I would like this that much.
Now, you mentioned that we hadn't oaked this. I actually...
You think we did?
No, I don't think I'd want to.
No. If we did, it's great. If we didn't, I wouldn't want to add an oak to it.
I'm just imagining, I don't really want vanilla flavors in this. I don't particularly want more tannins in it. I feel like it stays with you.
Right. I mean, when I give my score, I'm judging it off of my own personal preferences.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can already tell this isn't going to be an 11. But I still have to, you know, I guess I got to stop doing that. I need to look at it as how successful of a brew is it, not how much do I enjoy it, because that would be the impartial way. How's that?
Well, that just changes.
That changes
the whole shebang.
Looking at it from a perspective of how successful was the wine, not just what we wanted, but as a wine. If you were to hand this to someone and say, what do you think of this? How successful is it? I think that makes a difference because then it takes our personal bias out. and just turns into, was it a successful brew or not, based on what it is, not what we might have wanted.
Curious.
Or we could give 2 scores. How we feel about it personally and how successful it was as a brew. I think I like the 2 scores. That way you could say like, okay,
You know this is totally messing up my chart that I still haven't completed. It's the never-ending chart of doom. I'm speaking of the City Steading scorecard that can be found on the City Steading website.
all you have to do is add another row.
Link in the description below. Do
Just
you
have
know
to
how
add
many
another row.
rows I got on that bad boy?
For the new one,
See, he hates when I say bad boy.
for the new ones, just add a new row and then you're fine. Or we could just make the personal enjoyment just for fun.
Okay.
And it's not official.
But everything has been personal enjoyment up to now.
Then you only record the personal enjoyment. And then the other one's just for fun. However you want to do it. I'm just trying to give the most to our viewers so that they understand. Because here's the thing. There's brews that I would say, wow, this is a very successful recipe. I think it works wonderfully well. It's a 10. But I don't personally enjoy it. It's a 5. Where do you come up with that? Where does that work? Do I give it a 7.5 and then they both sides get screwed?
Well, that's why I think we try to be rather transparent on what our personal biases are, so that way we can convey that information to you, so you will know, oh, their preferences are far more sweeter than mine, so they're saying this is too dry, it might be perfect for me, or vice versa. And I think a few commenters have confused that information,
Yeah.
or perhaps were distracted and didn't get that information. So when we give these scores, they're very arbitrary. They're very our personal headspace
and how we feel today.
for that moment.
To taste it next week, it could be a different score.
And that's why we babble on.
I might hate this
to try to give you all the other information besides that end number, because that ultimately that end number means nothing.
But I'm just looking at it like if we were judges in, say, a competition or something, our personal preferences would not come into play. It's more how successful is it as what it is. This is mango wine. It's dry mango wine. Okay, as a representation of a dry mango wine, where does this fall?
Okay, I am totally on board with this concept. I guess my only regret is that we hadn't come across this concept before.
Well, yeah. But hey, you know, that's how science works. We've been doing it this one way all along and realized there's a better way. So we used the better way. I'm sorry that you did all that work.
It's okay. It's all right. It's a thing.
But doing a lot of work in the past doesn't require you to continue that in the future.
No, you have to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah. So you make 2 charts. You have...
Strive to be better.
Okay, here's what you do. You have 2 charts. You have the old chart, and then you start a new chart. For the new stuff that we're doing with the 2 scores, that has a new chart. As of June of 2023, we have a new system for scoring. So we do it this way now.
I'll figure it out. It's all right.
Just trying to help.
It's okay.
Okay, so our 2 scoring methods now. By the way, we did not think about this or talk about this.
This just happened.
Yeah.
This is spontaneity at its finest.
So we're going to have 2 scores. We're going to have an enjoyment score, which is very biased. How much do we personally like it? And that way, some people might be like, you know, I usually identify with Brian or I usually identify with Derica. That gives you that. And then we also have the performance score, like how good is this as a brew? I think this is really critical to know. So our personal enjoyment score goes from 1 through 11, 11 just being, we love this, it's the best thing I've ever had, 1 being, I would never drink this. And then on the performance level, I would say 10 is the highest, because 10 just means it came out exactly the way it's supposed to be. There's no 11s here. Yeah. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It fermented properly. There's no off flavors. There's nothing odd, off, or weird about it. There was no stalling. There was nothing. It's perfectly clear, everything like that. This takes into account clarity, balance of flavor, how efficient the fermentation was, all those things taken into account, and the finished product. I think that's a great way to go, because one's very clinical, the other one's very personal. And I think that makes it interesting.
I concur.
All right, so.
What score are we doing first?
I don't know. What do you want to do first? I think we should do the performance score first.
Performance, okay.
And I would love for you guys to give us suggestions for names for these, because performance score just kind of does not sound like a CSB thing. It's just not something I really want to promote the idea of. And then enjoyment score just goes, we're edging that line,
Performance.
Yeah. So we need acronyms for those, if anybody has any good ideas. And we'll pick the best ones and use those.
PG-13, please.
Oh, yeah. Got to be PG-13.
Or
let's go with PG, period. Yeah, just PG. We get some odd suggestions every once in a while. But anyway, so let's start with the performance, the actual quality of it as a wine itself.
all right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You don't need more?
I don't need more.
Okay. 1, 2, 3,
9.
9. Yes. I'm right there with you.
I gave it a 9 because I knocked it half a point down from 10 because I do wish that was slightly more mango-y. Mango is definitely there, but I would like it just a half a point more. I don't want too much more, just half a point more. Then I knocked it another half a point down because of that little bit of lees that was left in the bottle.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. I agree on both points.
That was it.
Exactly. That is precisely the way I saw it too. So that is just the quality of the wine itself. Now we get on to the personal bias, what we personally think of it.
Personal bias, I'm jumping all over the place.
Do you need some more?
Nope.
All right. I have a number.
Okay.
1, 2, 3,
7.
4.
4? Oh,
4.
wow. Oh, that's right, because it's not sweet.
You see the difference? This is why I wanted the 2 scores, because I can appreciate this as a winemaker, as a brewer. I can appreciate what this is. I don't like it.
I was actually jumping between 6.5 and 7.5. Those were my parameters. I really like this. I really like the opportunities and the way it's making my brain go, oh, use it in cooking with this, and then pair it with that, and then cook and pair, and it's got my mental juices flowing, if you will, besides my salivary juices flowing, because I'm enjoying it. I don't mind the dryness. I like that little hint of mango. I do wish it was a little stronger hint of mango. And I really appreciate the fact that it is reading wine 100% first. And then mango later. It's actually kind of reminding me of those faux fruited wines that are just a grape wine where they add a fruit. But in general, when they do that, they over add the fruit and it just becomes this like
weird,
sickly, sweet, weird abomination. This is more like, let's make this beautiful white wine and then waft mango over it.
Somebody thought about adding mango.
Here's some mango.
Okay, I went with a 4, and you might be thinking, what the heck? Here's some reasons why. My personal enjoyment. I'm not going to reach for this. This is never going to enter my glass unless she puts it in there and says, this goes well with what we're having for dinner. That's about the only way that I would actually drink this. And I would enjoy it with the meal. Not a problem. I would cook with this, though. I would definitely use this for cooking, which is different than my personal enjoyment, because I use things for cooking that I wouldn't necessarily put in a glass and drink. Think about it. There's that. There's also the mango needs to be sweet in my eyes. Mango is a sweet fruit. It actually has more sugars than a lot of other fruits. It needs to be sweet for me to enjoy it. I would have wanted it to be sweet. Now, I know what I said before, it would change the wine. And that's why I like this 2-score system, because I can be impartial and partial at the same time. And that's what I needed to be on this particular brew. My impartiality says this is a great wine. And I didn't want to steer anybody wrong by giving it a 4 or 5, because I don't personally think it's something I would want, when in fact it's a great wine. It actually is really, really good. We've had lots of commercial wines, like the fruit thing that she's saying, lots of various commercial wines, and this is better than most of them. It just is. It's just better. It's better quality. Everything about it is better, but it's not my personal taste, and that makes a huge difference. So this way, you got 3 different points to go off of now. You have a performance value, and then you have each of our personal tastes to go from. I think that's kind of cool. I like this.
All right. So there you go. Mango wine.
Go make it. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.
Bye-bye.